Welcome to this spring sports edition of Wildcat Sports Update. I'm your host, Jim Boyle, and I'm pleased to have with me the three senior captains of our girls tennis team. We have Vidhi Shah, we have Joanna Robinson, and we have Lauren Diarco. Welcome, ladies. Let's start with Joanna. Why don't you just give us how long you played Wilmington High School tennis, and if you and any other tennis career highlight, what you've done in your career.
Great. So I've been playing for the Wilmington High School team since freshman year, so since ninth grade. I started playing varsity as a seconds doubles player with my partner Vidhi Shah over here since sophomore year. Let's see, I started to play tennis in 8th grade, but I didn't really stick with it because I had some other conflicts, and so Vidhi actually convinced me to play tennis freshman year. We were just like, let's do it together, and so that's how I started.
Okay, Vidhi, how about yourself?
So I totally agree with Johanna. I started playing my Wilmington High School career at freshman year, and I've been playing competitive tennis since my 6th grade. I played at the Boobin Racket Club and just played club tennis until my freshman year of high school. And like Johanna said, we started off as a sophomore varsity doubles players, and right now I am a singles player, my second singles.
Okay, and let's go down here to Lauren.
So I started playing for the high school freshman year, but I started playing tennis in the 2nd grade, and me and Vidhi were actually on a different tennis team together through a club for about 5 years now, so I've been playing for a while.
Okay, so you guys all been played for 4 years. You were part of Coach Hackett tells me you're part of the resurgence of Wilmington girls tennis. I think you've made it up until, I know it was a tough year this year, but up until this year, you guys were part of the resurgence and you made the tournament 3 years. And then how do you explain, with COVID, what happened missing last year? How did that impact you guys, Lauren?
I think it impacted us, because we couldn't really play because everything was shut down and the courts were locked, and I think also it affected the team because some people just did not return that were previously varsity, so the team definitely took a bit of a hit for it, but we got a lot of new people who made the team great. So
okay, and what do you play? You doubles or singles?
I play singles.
You play singles, okay. And let's go Joanna, with as a captain in COVID land, how did you, and people didn't come back, how did you see your role as motivating or bringing the team along, especially with the young team that you had?
So I think that's a really important question, just because a lot of the people that that we have on the team this year are brand new. We only had 4 returning players, and now we have what used to be usually a team of around 10 or so is now 23. So it's the largest team that we've personally ever seen. And so I think the biggest motivating factor is to just encourage everyone. A lot of the kids on the team that are new don't really have prior experience with tennis, and so I think it was just important for us to just be with them, help them, kind of guide them throughout tennis, and just encourage them and tell them it's all right to make mistakes. It's a process. You practice, you grow, and with practicing every day, you get really good really fast. So.
Okay, and Vidhi, you've, I think Lauren said you guys have played together a long time. So how did you use that experience of, you three have been together for the 4 years and you've been through the successes. How did you use that experience to help motivate and get these younger players to understand that it's not always as difficult as this year was? What did you think about it?
For me, honestly, I think being part of tennis since I was younger, it was quite hard. I would always be hard on myself, but I think one thing that I always told the newcoming players was that don't be too hard on yourself, because in the end all it matters is if you've improved within yourself, and even if you haven't, it'll just get better. Don't worry about it. And yeah.
So of the new, you can keep it, we're going to ask you another question. Of the new players, how many of the new players did you actually recruit? Did you, personally, we'll go through all three, how many did you recruit? Because to get to 23 players is a phenomenal number with Wilmington tennis, and especially in the past we were always seemed to be searching at getting players. You know, you three probably have to take some credit in getting this team to be this big. What's your recruiting style? How did you get those kids to play?
Well, I'm in the strings orchestra at WHS, and I overheard like one of the girls talking about how they wanted to play tennis. So I was like jumping up on it. I was like, oh my God, you guys should totally join. Like, we need new players. We need like a lot of new people because there's only 4 returning as far as I knew so far. And they were like, oh yeah, like we'll totally join. And so that was just one girl, and then she like got her entire like group to join, and I was like, that was a really major like impact that we could get a lot of good people on the team.
That's good. So you did a good job in recruiting. Joanna, back to with COVID, with no locker rooms. I don't know if you had a bus to the matches. How did you make sure you had good team bonding, especially with young players? Mm-hmm. Leadership is great, and it seems like the three have done a great job in being leaders of this team. How did you use that leadership to grow the team and to bond all these kids, these girls, young girls who hadn't played before? What style? How'd you do that?
So since there wasn't really, because of COVID, since we couldn't really get buses or anything, like closer to the end of the season, we did get 2 buses for, I think it was like Melrose and Wakefield, Watertown, yeah. Just because those are far drives and a lot of the girls on the team weren't necessarily comfortable with the drives. We did have buses, and the buses are an amazing way to bond with our team. We usually, I have a playlist, and so we crank out music. We'll roll down the windows. We'll be screaming out. We'll be singing to the cars right next to us. Sometimes we'll get some waves, some weird looks, and so I mean that's definitely a fun time. It was a little hard with masks on during practice because I could only see like less than half of each other's faces. So it was a little hard to get those bonds in, to actually like notice who people were. Like you'd have to look at their racket and be like, okay, I know this person has their racket, so I know like this is that person. But once masks were off, It was a lot easier to make those connections. And I think like we even like because we don't have bus rides anymore, we always bring our speaker to practices and we blast music there. We try to talk a lot, and I mean we try to help each other out, and so I mean I'm surprised with how close we've gotten despite our lack of interaction that like we normally have during a season, but we've still like managed to make some really good connections and friendships.
That's good. And Lauren, I don't know, did you, in the years past, were there team dinners, were there get-togethers? What did you use to substitute that? Maybe you had a team dinner, and maybe had an outside a picnic by the tennis court, but what you substitute for that bonding experience?
Yeah, so we obviously haven't been able to have like any team dinners or anything, but we've definitely just like after practice, we've all stayed and just kind of talked and hung out, and we have a bunch of group chats that we're always texting in and laughing in. So even though we can't always physically be together because of COVID, we definitely find other ways to still create those bonds.
Okay, and the music really helps.
Yeah,
like, right?
Of course.
Coach Hackett, what's one thing that you can say that you've learned from Coach Hackett this year, not this year, overall? What's he taught you as regards to not specific tennis, but just athletics in general?
I mean, I feel like I've learned a lot from him, but something that will definitely stick with me is that it's okay to have bad days. You know, like you can play an amazing tennis match but still lose, and you know, if I would be all upset about that, or you know, if the team lost, he would really like, you know, take us all together and be like, you guys still played amazing tennis. And we would never leave like a game or anything like feeling sad or upset, because he would always just let us know how proud he was and how much we've accomplished, even if the scores don't show it.
Okay, Joanna, same thing for you. Coach Hackett, what have you taken away from Coach?
I'd say one of the biggest takeaways from playing or being coached by Hackett for the past 4 years is just being kind. I know a lot of times, like when you play with other sports, when things aren't necessarily going the way that you anticipated it to go, sometimes like you start to get down on yourself, or you get like mad at yourself, and you take it out on your opponents. Like sometimes instead of just passing the ball nicely to them, you'll hit it in the other direction, make your opponents run for it, or something along those lines. But he's always told us to just be kind, and even if we don't win the match, like as long as we tried and we're kind, that's all that matters.
Okay, Biddy, same thing?
Definitely learned a lot from Mr. Hackett these last 4 years, but I think one of the most important things was how to be confident in myself when I play. I know that I would get really down on myself if I ever missed like a shot that was like easy. But he was always like, if you are just confident in like the way you're hitting, then nothing can like get in your way. Like as long as you're confident in yourself, then you'll feel like better about yourself when you play, which I think is like something that stuck through me like these entire 4 years.
That's excellent. So two-part question for you. First part is one highlight from this year that you're going to take away, and one highlight from your overall tennis career. One thing the two things that stick out from this year and overall.
I think the one highlight from this year is the one match that I won this year, because I think it was kind of just like a whole different match. I felt like I was in a whole different mindset, which goes back to being confident. Like I was just so confident. I was just like whipping through all of like the games, and I think that was a really good like mental booster for me. And in general, throughout these last 4 years, I think just being with my teammates is like one of like the most main things that helped me to like overcome this like last 4 years of tennis.
Okay. Joanna, same question.
Ooh, that's a tricky one. I know even though this season has been like not as long as the others and like compressed, there were so many memories that I wanted to take home with me. I'd say my favorite though was our last bus ride, and it was insane. It was lots of fun. We were blasting music and we were singing to other people. We had "Call Me Maybe," and I was just like "Call Me Maybe" to like the people behind us. We had some people dancing with us. That was definitely fun. So yeah.
How about overall, the whole career?
Overall, oh boy. I think it was definitely going to states. We had an amazing team that year. A lot of upperclassmen. We were all underclassmen, so it was amazing to be able to have lots of role models that we could look up to. And even though we weren't necessarily the greatest, those upperclassmen were always encouraging us and telling us that we were great, and they helped us a lot. And it was amazing to be able to go to states with them. Like even though we didn't get too far with states, it was still an amazing memory to be there with them.
Good. And Lauren, same question.
So from this year, what I'm really going to remember is one of my matches that we played against Wakefield. It was quite a long match. Like I played like 3-hour matches, and I think just me and the girl digging into a few disagreements, and I think just kind of how I like composed myself and how I acted and how we worked through everything. I think I'll never forget that, because that was just really like eye-opening to like, wow, like some disagreements can be really bad, but if you just kind of stay calm and figure it out, then you'll get through it. And then something through all the years that I'll remember is I used to play the doubles with my older sister, and I thought that was really cool that I got that experience to do tennis with her.
Good. So in regards to that, so coaches that you've had other than Coach Haggard, is there any other coaches you want to give a mention to?
So I've basically been playing tennis for 10 years, so I've had a ton of tennis coaches, and one of my coaches from Woburn Racket Club, Mary, I love her. She's why I'm the tennis player I am today, and I owe everything to her. From when I was in the 2nd grade till now, I played tennis because of her, and she's always kept me motivated to continue. And when times got rough and when we stopped for a year because of COVID, she got me right back, and now I'm single, so it's great.
So Mary's a coach. Any other, and you said any other influences or inspirational people that have gotten you to this far as well?
Definitely my parents too. My dad also plays tennis, so just being able to hit with him has been really awesome.
And you said you played with your sister?
Yep.
And how much older is your sister than?
She's 2 years older than me.
So it would have been your sophomore year?
Yep, and she was a senior.
Okay, good. And Joanne, I'm going to ask the same questions. People down the road, coaches that have helped you get to this point, and then other people that have inspired you or have influenced you as you're going forward.
So Coach Hackett was definitely a big influence on me, especially since tennis wasn't necessarily my biggest sport or my main sport. And so he was always there with me, helping me along. Sometimes he would offer to just work on the basics, get the fundamentals down. And so I thought that was really helpful. And as a doubles player, there's a lot you have to worry about other than just playing your game. You have to worry about communication, the chemistry you have with your partner. And so it was great to have, both of the doubles partners that I've had have been amazing people, and we've had amazing chemistry, and communication has been great. So a lot of thanks to them. Definitely a big thanks to Vidi. I don't think I would have joined tennis freshman year without her convincing me. So that was definitely a big thing. My dad too. I mean, like we'd go behind. We live right next to the north, and so he'd always offer to bring me to the tennis courts and just hit balls with me. There's definitely been a couple times where I've hit him, but he still showed up after. So, yeah, so I'd say those are definitely my biggest influences.
Okay, Vidi, who is the greatest recruiter that Wilmington High School tennis has ever had, it sounds like she gets everybody going. Coaches and influences for you.
I think apart from Coach Hackett, who has always been there for us, I was in the club tennis with Lauren, and as she said, Mary was also a huge supporter of us. She was always motivating us to do our best. During the club matches and practices, she would always not yell at us, but she would always be like, "You got this! Come on! What's going on? You can do this!" And I think that was one of the biggest helps that I could ever receive. And apart from coaches, I think influencing-wise, my parents have always been there for me. They always encouraged me to do what I like instead of forcing me to do things that I wouldn't. They always said okay, you like tennis, okay, we'll help you do whatever you want. You want private lessons, you want group lessons, whatever you want, we got you. Just do whatever you want and succeed in it, in a sense. So I think that was one of the biggest influences in my life. So
Okay,
yeah.
so Vidi, other than tennis, it doesn't have to be athletics, what else have you done at the high school?
As I mentioned before, I am in the strings orchestra. I've been the president of the local Heroes Club and the chess club. And I took part in the Peer Mentors Club my sophomore year. And apart from that, I just love to be of any help that I can, helping out my teachers and everything, just to, yeah, and also motivating younger students. I think that's...
Joanna, what's your Wilmington resume look like, high school resume?
Oh boy. So I played on the Wilmington field hockey team. I played goalie. Let's see, I did jazz band, concert band, marching band.
What instrument?
I played tenor sax.
Okay.
Started off with alto, but moved up to tenor. And then I was the National Honors Society secretary, and I volunteer at my church. It's in Wilmington too, so
Good.
yeah.
Good. Lauren?
My Wilmington High School resume is not that big, honestly. I think aside from tennis, I did art club, but other than that, I was basically played tennis every day since freshman year, so I didn't have much time for anything else.
That plus studying takes a lot of time, right? So
Yeah,
you'll have to study.
homework.
Favorite tennis player to watch, who you would model a game after?
I love watching Serena Williams. I think she's so inspiring, and she's an amazing player, and I think she's a really nice person too. So I love watching her.
Okay, again, I'm not the most knowledgeable tennis human being that ever lived. What is your style of play for tennis? Are you a serve and volley? Do you attack the net?
Yeah, I'd say so for my first 2 years, I did doubles, so I think I got really comfortable with volleying, going to the net, because you do that more in doubles. And with singles, it's not as much, but I love going to the net, so I'd say that's definitely what I try to do in all my matches, is just run to the net and volley.
Okay, and what teammate would you say helped you to get to this point? Doesn't have to be current or past teammate. What person on the team over your 4 years that you've looked up to get you where you are?
So someone who graduated 2 years ago, her name is Emily Hill. She was probably one of the best tennis players to ever go through Wilmington High School, and she was very inspiring, and she was a great player. So I definitely looked up to her, and I still do.
Okay, Joanne, we're going to go to the same set of questions. We'll start with favorite player, and then what style you play, and somebody that you've looked up to that really helped get you here.
Like Lauren said, I'd say Serena Williams is a classic. You can't go wrong with her. And she has an amazing serve. Honestly, all parts of her play are amazing, but her serve and her net play. And she also plays doubles too with her sister, which I think is kind of cool, since I primarily play doubles. So I've definitely looked up to her. I love that she stands up for what she believes in too. She's very vocal about stuff, so yeah.
And a teammate could be present or past?
Teammate. Oh,
You've
boy.
already mentioned Vidi like 4 times. So we can go with her again if we want. But
Well, video. No. Let's see. Emily was definitely a big
Yeah.
influence on all of us too. Not only was she one of the best players that we've seen, she was definitely like a really nice person to be around. She was so humble about her playing too. Like you would never be able to tell.
Okay.
And so I'd say she was a really, really great role model to look up to as well.
Okay, Vidi, real quickly, favorite player or somebody you look up to?
Definitely, I agree with both of them. Serena Williams, Venus Williams are both amazing players. They're both really inspiring, especially because I was playing doubles this year. I could relate to them kind of more because I was doing the same kind of stuff they would have to, which was really nerve-wracking because I had never played singles before. So watching them play and like trying to get a little bit of tips and hints from them was like really good. One player that had really inspired me was, of course, Emily Hill. She was an amazing person as well as an amazing player, and she always was hardworking and like dedicated to what she wanted to do, and she was just amazing. So,
Okay,
yeah.
and since you're the recruiter of the bunch, I'm going to ask you this specific question. There's a 6-year-old little first or second grader walking around the tennis court. What are you going to tell them about playing tennis? What would you say to them to get them interested in playing tennis?
I think I would first ask them if they knew what tennis was, because if they're like 6, I feel like they just like, oh yeah, it's just hitting a ball and, you know, getting it over the net. But I think sparking like their interest is like one of the main things instead of just like pushing them like, oh, you got to do it. I think if they're interested in, I think that's when you can get them to kind of learn about it more and then get interested in it a lot more.
Okay, Joanna, real quickly, what would you say to that 6-year-old or 5 or 6th grader or whatever, just to get them, how to motivate them to play?
I would definitely let them know that it is a collaborative effort, but it's also it has aspects of both. It's a very unique sport in the sense where each person contributes a certain amount, but you have to win together as a team to actually win your match, which is not as common as other sports. You're constantly working with your team together, all parts of the game. But with tennis, it's individual contributions where you can have a partner, but it's not necessarily like true that you will always have a partner, but it is a team effort, and that it can be a beautiful thing if you find the right people to play with.
Okay, Lauren, your sales pitch. Now let's make it to the parent. Like if you go to the parent now to get a parent. Oh, my daughter wants to play tennis and she's 8 years old. And what would you say to the parent? From your experiences?
I would say to the parent to not give up, because tennis, it may seem easy, but it is not as easy as it seems. It can definitely be difficult until you kind of get it. So I would just tell them to motivate their child and to not give up on them, and that eventually they will get the ball over the net. It will come.
That's good. And if we had your whole team here, all whatever it was 22 of them, what's one word they would use to describe you as a captain and as a player, or as a, like, are you motivating? Are you funny? Are you?
I would hope that they would say those things. I would hope that they would think that I'm welcoming and helpful, because I definitely feel like I helped a lot of people on the team this year just because there were so many. I think us 3 definitely, helped out the freshmen and stuff, so I hope that they would say I'm helpful.
Okay, Joanna, same thing. What's the one?
I'd probably say optimistic. I'm like the team cheerleader. I always do like the warm-ups and all the cheers. Even while just like walking around and watching all of the other teammates play, I always try to just like yell words of encouragement at them, like, you got this, like, don't worry about it, just like at the next point, just little things like that. So hopefully I try to be a little ray of light, or just be optimistic and help them kind of push through. So.
Okay, Vita, you probably know the question I'm going to ask you. What are they?
I would hope that they would say that I am really welcoming and really kind in a way. I feel like that's a basic word, but I feel like it's really important, because this year we had a really big team, because like usually whenever they think of the girls' tennis, it's like, oh, it's just 10 players, like what's going to go wrong? But this year was quite a shock for like the coach, for us, for the returning players, and especially I think it would be kind of nerve-wracking for the newcoming players. So I think the biggest thing was just to be kind and welcoming and to just like bond together. I think that was one of like the biggest things. So I hope I could provide that for like the new coming players and even for like the previous players too.
So I know that Joanna talked about having the speaker on the bus and all the music being played. What was your motivational song that you'd have her play before you're going to go out and play tennis?
I think one of the most like motivational songs that we've played throughout our 4 years was "The Climb" by Hannah Montana. We would always play that, and it would always be like not a joke, but it would be like a fun song to play. But we would also, I would think back to how like we're climbing to like our ladder of success and using like each of our matches and our points to build upon that and to like get better as time goes on.
Okay, the DJ of the team, Joanna, what's your motivational walk-up song, and then what's the most popular thing you played on the bus? So 2 things, yours and the most
Okay.
popular thing you got to play.
I'd say my favorite is "Forget You" by CeeLo Green. There's a lot going on in that song, so definitely a lot of background vocals. You know, some of the girls will be singing those, some will be with the lead vocals, and so there's a lot of ad-libbing here and there as well. So it's definitely a bus favorite. And this season, though, thanks to Lauren, this was always Lauren's request, but our favorite hype song of the season would have to be "Levitating" by Dua Lipa. So we'd crank that up every practice, every bus ride, and so
Okay, perfect. And Lauren, I don't know if that's your walk-up song, but what would be the song that motivates you? You play in your head, or you play right before you step out on the court?
It was honestly levitating. When we have to drive there, I would always play that song like on repeat the whole way there, and it would just get me motivated.
Okay, so it's your senior year. What are you going to miss the most about
I
tennis?
think I'm just gonna miss the people the most, and Coach Hackett. I mean, he's just such an amazing coach, and he's honestly changed my life, and I will never forget him or any of these girls on the team.
Okay, and what are your plans for the future?
We'll be attending Stonehill College, majoring in health science.
Health sciences. And look right into this camera here. Give a shout out to whoever you want.
Shout out to my family and Coach Hackett. And Alyssa, because it's her birthday today.
Okay, good. Joanna, same type of thing for you. What are you going to miss the most?
Definitely the memories. There have been so many memories over the past 4 years that I'll definitely treasure, definitely won't forget. The people, too. Even though I wasn't like necessarily the greatest player, just because I haven't been playing as much as some of the other girls on the team, they've always been encouraging, and the people have always never made me feel bad about it, and so they've definitely helped me come a long way.
And plans for the future?
I'll be attending the University of New England, studying medical biology on their 3+4 osteopathic medicine program.
Okay, everybody comes in here is always a lot smarter than I am. That's good. That's very encouraging. Shout out, look into the camera, give a shout out.
Shout out to Coach Hackett, to my family, to my team, and everyone who supported me these past 4 years. And shout out to Alyssa, as she's my doubles partner, and it's her birthday today.
Okay, real quickly, go run low time. Plans for the future, Edie?
My plans for the future are I will be attending the University of Massachusetts Lowell for chemical engineering. And
Okay, and just right into the camera and give a shout out to whoever you want.
I would like to thank my parents, my coaches, Coach Hackett, and all my teachers and everyone that's always been supporting me throughout this entire high school journey. Thank
Okay,
you.
I'd like to thank my 3 guests from the girls' tennis team. Thank you for coming in. For Wildcat Sports Update, this is Jim Boyle, and we'll see you on down the road.